never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist. Mission control, do you read me? Send me my coordinates lately. Mission control, am I drifting? Tie me to someone who will love me, yeah. Wait, I think I'll last a bit longer. Find another.
Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Today's video is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it because I'm going to tell you about a college football coach that's new to the Power 5 coaching game, but he's not new to the coaching world. And something he said last week that makes him impossible to not like. And I'm also going to tell you a quick story about body odor. All that's coming up, but first, let's talk about NASCAR from this past weekend. Saturday afternoon, we had the Craftsman Truck Series race. Last year's champion, Zane Smith, came home with the victory. Kyle Busch, second. Ty Majeski, third. Tyler Ankrum, fourth. And Ross Chastain rounded out the top five. Corey Heim, sixth. Nick Sanchez, seventh. Tanner Gray, eighth. Kaz Grala, ninth. And Ben Rhodes rounded out the top 10. This upcoming Saturday, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series back in action at 4:30 Saturday afternoon on FS1 from Texas Motor Speedway. Later on Saturday afternoon into Saturday night, we had the Xfinity Series, and AJ Allmendinger came home with the victory, followed by William Byron, Ty Gibbs, Sammy Smith, Justin Allgaier, Daniel Hemrick, Sam Mayer, Josh Berry, Sheldon Creed, and Riley Herbst rounded out the top 10. Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock, they are back in action on FS1 from Richmond. It will be the Toyota Care 250, so another doubleheader coming your way. Saturday, this time from two different racetracks. 1 o'clock, Xfinity Series from Richmond, followed by Craftsman Truck Series at 4:30 from Texas. And then Sunday afternoon, Tyler Reddick got his first win of the season, his first win in the 45 monster car for 23XI Racing, followed by Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, Ross Chastain, and William Byron. Austin Cindric, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Chris Buescher, Ty Gibbs, and Todd Gilliland rounded out the top 10. This Sunday, back in action at 3:30 on FS1. It'll be the first Cup Series race of the season on FS1. The first six were all on the national Fox. It's the Toyota Owners 400 from Richmond. If you missed the race Sunday, I thoroughly enjoyed it up until the very end. It was scheduled 68 laps because the Circuit of the Americas is a almost 3.5 mile racetrack. Everything was good until I believe lap 66, and they had a huge wreck, so it led to a green white checker finish. Of course, back in the day, NASCAR Cup Series could finish under caution. Nobody liked that, so they started having a green white checkered finish to allow the race to finish under green. And it used to be you only got 3 attempts, and if you tried 3 times and it didn't work, then you would finish under caution. They've changed that. Now it's unlimited amount of attempts. So I think instead of 68 laps, I believe they ran 76 laps. But the only bad part was the wrecks weren't up front. All the wrecks were 15th place on back. And the way the points are set up, if you finish that far back, you're not getting any points. So there's no difference in finishing 14th and finishing 16th. So why those guys that far back are wrecking each other is beyond me. There's no sense in it. It's stupid. Kyle Busch made the comment last week that there's no longer respect from any young drivers in the garage area. And if you watch that race Sunday, you could see that because they're out there wrecking people for no reason. I've never liked drivers wrecking other drivers because to me, if you're a good driver, you should be able to pass them without having to wreck them. But at least if it's for a top 5 finish, I understand it to a point. But to wreck somebody when you're running 20th makes absolutely zero sense. So they had to keep restarting because you've got guys 20th place wrecking each other. When the race ended, everybody that far back was mad at everybody because everybody wrecked everybody. But up until then, the race was really good. I enjoyed it. This Sunday, they're at Richmond. That'll be a good race as well because that's a short track. Not as short as Bristol or Martinsville, but still a short track. The worst part about the race Sunday was they had Chase Elliott live via satellite from Colorado, where he's still recovering from his broken leg. And Chase Elliott has the personality of a tree. So it doesn't get any more boring than when Chase Elliott talks. But Deion Sanders made some comments last week, and I wouldn't have seen it if it wasn't posted on social media because I'm not a Colorado Buffalo football fan, so I don't really tend to watch a lot of their stuff that goes on during the off season. But I didn't hear the question, but you could pretty much hear what Deion Sanders was saying and just about gather what the question was. But he was talking about being old school, and he asked if there's anybody in the room above 45, and of course, all you see is Deion Sanders, so if anybody raised their hand, you couldn't hear them, but nobody out loud said, I am. So I'm assuming it was a bunch of young people in the room, but he said he was old school, and back in his day, you had to earn stuff, and these kids nowadays get stuff handed to them when they haven't done a dadgum thing, and it shouldn't be that way. Then he got to talking about the double numbers, and he said nowadays double numbers is something you see from almost every team in every game. Back when I played, if you got a number that somebody else already wore, you pretty much knew your butt wasn't going to play. And that's the way it should be. There's no reason to have double numbers. And then he got to talking about how nowadays you've got players wanting to wear number 1 when they're freshmen and they haven't done anything. And he said, in my day, if you wore number 1, there was a reason. You didn't get handed number 1. You had to earn number 1. And then he got to talking about how nowadays you've got offensive linemen wanting to wear single digits. He said you don't let offensive linemen wear single digits because then you've got skill players having to wear high jersey numbers, and you just don't do that. So he was talking about old school and how much the game has changed, and I was listening to what he was saying, and I thought, you know what? I'm not a Colorado fan, but it's impossible to not like Deion Sanders. everything he does and says is so positive. He's so truthful. I watched an interview probably 5 or 6 weeks ago when he was at a elderly woman's house, and she had to be in her 80s or 90s. And he went in her house and they sat down, and she was a Colorado fan, and she was showing him some pictures of back in the day. And he just seemed so nice and polite and humble. And I'll never be a Colorado fan, and I don't know if the whole Deion at Colorado thing is going to work out or not. It seems like everybody either feels like it's going to work perfectly or it's going to be a complete, total, utter failure. So I don't know which one it'll be, but it's impossible to not like Deion Sanders as a coach anyway. Now, people that know him personally may not like him as a person, but as a coach, the things he does and says, and he's making players actually earn stuff, that's the way it should be. That's what's wrong with these players now, not just in football, but in all sports. They get catered to. You look at the NBA, and nowadays you've got players that make $35, $40 million a year, and they won't play on back-to-back nights. Back in the day, the players didn't make a tenth of what these guys nowadays make, and they played every single night. And the NBA just says, oh, it's okay. You can play next time. And it's ruined almost all the athletes in every sport because they get catered to. So it's nice and it's a change to see a coach actually say his players are going to earn stuff, not be handed stuff. That's the way it should be. And lastly, I want to talk about body odor for a minute because I heard this story yesterday, and it's funny because I did hear the story about 7:15 yesterday morning, but I'd actually read about it about 5:30 yesterday morning before I heard about it. And it said, according to new research, if somebody suffers from social anxiety disorder, sniffing somebody else's body odor can help cure their social anxiety. So if you know anybody that suffers from social anxiety, encourage them to go find somebody that has bad body odor and tell them to sniff that person, and it may help cure their social anxiety. And that's not a joke. That's actually the God's honest truth. I heard about that yesterday morning, and I don't want anybody to suffer from social anxiety. So maybe that'll help somebody with their social anxiety problems. If you know anybody that has social anxiety problems. Homes for Our Troops is a publicly funded 501c nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans. Since the 2004 inception, nearly 90 cents of every dollar spent has gone directly to our program services for veterans. Visit at hfotusa.org. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. I gave up playing poker at the laundromat. I kept having to fold, and I lost my shirt. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.